Welcome to the Lent for Everyone podcast. I'm Tyler. Michelle's here with me. This is our final podcast of the series.
Whoa.
Although there is quite a bit of the book left,
Yeah.
a couple week or two, but this will be our last podcast because this is Holy Week, and after Easter, we're done.
This was a Lenten podcast.
Yeah,
so.
that's right. So anyway, what I wanted to ask you was, how was your day, and did anything interesting happen?
I know. I was already thinking you were jumping in the book and you weren't going to ask me the traditional, how are you? My day was good, but very uncomfortable because I had to go to jury duty. After receiving the letter multiple times, but then being waved away, or, my last name wasn't in the part of the alphabet that they wanted or needed, I had to go in and face the judge.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's just so I'm a little scatterbrained because, when you go through something different, and it's like a little bit uncomfortable and you're just kind of replaying it in your head. Oh, and I got rejected. So
You did not get picked.
So I'm kind of like, oh, what did I do? I mean, I have my ideas, and I don't think I was right for the case in their eyes, obviously.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm probably just too nice, too kind, too smart, too clever.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, anyway.
And how appropriate.
Yeah.
Because, we're looking at, how Jesus was put on
Going
trial.
through a trial, I know.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking through this whole thing too, like, what if I have to judge somebody, and what would God want me to do? And I mean, it's our duty living in this country, and
That's
I think
right.
it's a very, they said a couple times today, we have one of the best court systems in the world. So, yeah, very interesting day, but replaying a lot of it in my mind, and I don't know, just why didn't they choose me? And I even said that I can read and speak other languages. I mean, come on.
Once you get in there, then it feels like you're on a TV show or
That's
something.
what I was telling a friend was first of all, they made us stay in this room for an extremely awkward amount of time, where initially they said it was just going to be a minute, like a holding room. It's a long story, and then finally when they came to get us, like 5 steps out of the room, I heard, "All stand for the jury," or whatever, and I was like, wait, whoa, this just got real.
Yeah.
And then you are like given a specific seat, and I was no longer called by my name. I was juror 121.
Yep.
And and they ask you a million questions as a group, and then they proceed to interview you at length individually. And I was the last one too. And then when I did leave, the guy who I was leaving with was like, "Why were we sweating in there?" Like, he's like, "I was like sweating. I was nervous." And I was like, "I know, what?"
You feel like
he's
you're
like,
on trial a little bit.
It was like, wait, we're here to like serve, but of course they have to, vet you. So it was just, I'm exhausted in a certain way.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into this too much.
Yeah, sorry.
But, not your jury thing, but you just reminded me that in the way Jesus' trial went down, he was taken at night, brought before the high priests and all, these leaders and things like that, in the middle of the night, which is totally not how things are supposed to be done in Jesus' time. So
shady.
Yeah, so it was a pretty remarkable, circumstance that they put Jesus on trial, and it was not even the way that they do things. So you can imagine, you get a letter in the mail, and here's when you're supposed to report, and you show up, and it's very official,
Yeah.
It would be really bizarre if someone just came and grabbed you and said, "Hey, let's go."
And just yell.
We're putting
like,
we're putting someone on trial. Let's go get them. So, yeah.
I think our court system is effective if you compare it to, I know it has its issues, but.
Well, that's not really what I want to get into, but you made me think of that, about how Jesus' trial was really not a normal thing. Anyway, what I wanted to get after here is on Saturday's reading, week 5, it's like the whole trial and crucifixion of Jesus.
He really makes you read all of it.
Yeah, it's quite a few pages of, well, not quite a few. It's several pages of reading, which normally it's just a paragraph or two. And when I was reading over it, I kind of had this feeling of, all right, Tyler, like I'm thinking in the back of my mind, just like there's a small voice saying, make this mean something. Like you've read this dozens of times.
Yeah.
Don't just glaze over it, or don't just read past it and just say, yep, that's just how it goes. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very familiar. And what's interesting is then right after the reading, N.T. Wright goes on to say, that's what we do all the time with this story is we read it and we're not shocked and we're not terrified and we're not surprised and all of those things.
As we should be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I want to start with is our question of the week, which is when you read this portion of scripture, whether it's during Lent or whether it's other times in the year, how do you keep this fresh for yourself so that you don't just pass by it? You know, it's kind of like your drive home from work every day. You know it so well that you don't even think about the signs that are on the roads and the turns that you have to make and the distance that you're traveling. All those details just sort of get lost because you're just so familiar with the trip.
Yeah, you're on pilot, automatic.
Right.
Well, I mean, this isn't completely related to reading, but I typically try to watch the movie The Passion. I don't know, does that count?
I think it does. Yeah, I mean, that's a way to sort of frame things for yourself.
I think even my mom and I, back when I lived with her, we would. I mean, it's been around a long time now, right? Since 2005 or something. So I just feel like having a little bit more of a visual portrayal of the story can be helpful. I was also thinking back to,
and the movie is quite jarring.
Yeah,
that's probably why I don't watch it.
Yeah, I don't think you do watch it.
I saw it once, and I was like, okay, I've seen that. It's enough. And when I've thought about seeing it again, I always think, I'm not really sure what's the point of this movie being made. Like, why did they make this?
Maybe we should watch it again before Sunday.
Well, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, you can.
Well, anyway, I tend to get a lot out of it, and I like doing that. But also growing up in Catholic tradition, I don't know per se if Methodist does this. I think everyone does at some point. Acting it out. So in the Catholic Church, that's pretty regular, done with some consistency every year. And I always like that. And you are made to be the crowd.
Okay, yeah,
so, yeah, have you been part of that? So there's usually some main readers that are chosen to do the reading, but you are given a script as a congregant, and you have to do the crowd. So you are shouting out, oh my gosh, I'm almost like tearing, like crucify him and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
It's a little unnerving.
Yeah, it's I've always really appreciated that. So current day, I mean, I try to watch the movie, although I hadn't given it much thought yet. It passed through my thoughts recently, but I haven't made a real plan.
I read it this time, and then I read the follow-up study, and I felt like, okay, I'm going to go back and read it again. Mm-hmm. I haven't done that yet, but that's my plan, is to go back and read it again, and this time to just slow down and really pay attention and listen as I'm reading to the subtleties of the text. What are the things that maybe I haven't paid attention to before or in a while? And just really, I think the act of slowing down and maybe listening to what God is trying to say to me or show me will be a good way to help it stay fresh.
Reading it again, like you said, because you've already read it once, so reading it again and slowing down for sure. Yeah. I was glad at first. I was reading and reading and reading, the scripture that he gave us. And like you said, it's unusual for this format up till now to have so much text. And at first, anyway, I just was kind of confused. And then I was like, oh, no, this is awesome. Yeah. I'm glad we're really reading through it all.
So what stood out to me was I just couldn't stop thinking about the humanity of Jesus. How just human he seems and vulnerable in these scenarios. Yeah. Everything from he goes with his disciples after they do the Passover meal, they go to the Mount of Olives and he prays, and it says 3 times he prayed, God, if there is another way possible, let's do that. Hey, is there a plan B?
Yeah.
Because
just checking.
I want to get out of this.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes you think of Jesus and you go, well, he had all this power and, he had all this influence, and surely he could tap into some sort of reserve, some sort of divine reserve, divine power to help him power through these things. And maybe that's true, but what the report we have in the scriptures is that even if he did have access to that, he still was as human as you and I are.
Yeah.
When it comes down to pain and suffering and all of that, let's try to get out of that. Like, we don't really want to experience that. And what he really pushed through on was, I'm going to do what God's will is. Like, it doesn't sound like he reached inside for some divine power. He was just resolved to do what his mission was.
Yeah.
So there's Jesus praying, I want to get out of this, is something that I totally identify with. That would be me. Hey, get me out of this, God, please. The second thing is that when Jesus is on trial and they're accusing him of all these things, and it says they're hitting him on the head with rods, and they're spitting on him, and they're slapping him, and they're just treating him like dirt.
Yeah.
How he just is silent through the whole thing.
That's always incredible.
I mean, he just takes it.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like if he's got even an ounce of God's power and wrath at his fingertips.
Right. How can you hold that back?
I don't know. So I think just like maybe that is the divine part of Christ, to be able to just stand there and take it. But to me, he seems so defenseless and vulnerable there that I can't help but see the humanity in Jesus. And so that's the second time. And then the third time is that as the mission of Jesus is coming to a close, he's on the cross, he's done it. He's at the finish line.
Oh yeah.
He's almost there. And he still yells out,
yeah,
why have you abandoned me?
I want to memorize that.
It's just so like incredibly human.
It's
that when
powerful.
Jesus finally sees the mission, it's like, it's right there, your death is moments away. You've done what you were supposed to do, mission complete. And his response is still, where is God in all this?
And I think, that it's human, not just at face value, but also because we always have multiple emotions going on at once, right? And he does know, I think, to some, right? He knows that what he's doing is fulfilling God's will, but at the same time, he still has this other thought, right?
He's so human in that moment.
Right. Yeah. We always have conflicting thoughts, and I remember some mission work that I have done in the past. I've spent some time during the summer or whatever, and I commented to a friend something about it. Well, it was okay, or it was work. And they're like, I wasn't glowing about some particular aspect. I did enjoy my work. It was very fulfilling. I was happy to do it, etc. But this friend was like, well, I thought you just loved it. Like it was a vacation or something. And I was like, no, like I went down there and I tried to work. It's not all what, anyway, I don't know if I'm making a point here, but things are layered and complicated in the human experience. So
yeah, Jesus is quoting the Psalms when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? In the Psalms, when there are these very human responses, why does God hide himself from me? Where, God has hidden his face from me. Where is God in all this trouble? And when people have those reactions, it's helpful to remember that not only are those the same reactions that people have had about God for centuries before us, but even God himself became human and died on the cross, had that same reaction.
Yeah.
So it just sort of, in my mind, cements Jesus as this totally human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also a divine being, but also incredibly human. And I'm excited to go back and read it again
Yeah.
and pay attention to more of those things.
I always find the humanity, just all the realness of the story in his friends too. I mean, we've gone through that before, but the almost hilarity of them falling asleep. Like, I mean, if they only knew what their friend was really going to go through, but they're just human, well, I'm going to pray. I mean, how many times do I do that? I'm going to pray and then, I'm out.
And also, to point out, they just had 4 glasses of wine with the Passover meal, so they probably are pretty sleepy.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of those elements there too with the other characters, if you will, like Peter in the courtyard. I mean, it makes so much sense to me. I can empathize with those moments of, what? No, not me. Because you're just feeling attacked and fearful. And yeah.
When you really dig in, there's so many layers to this story and really to the entire story of Jesus that the more you study, the more that you're paying attention, the more you slow down, the more you realize that there's a depth there that really makes the season of Lent come alive if you're willing to just take a minute and dive into it. In fact, this is what I was saying to you earlier. Here, hand me the book because I want to read this. The easy answers are there, and they're all true. He died to save us. He died for our sins. He died because he loved us and gave himself for us. Yes, cling to those. We need them. And then he goes on to say that you can't just have the simple answers. And a lot of times churches, I think, they distill the gospel down to the simple version, Jesus died for my sins. Now I'm saved because of that, and that's kind of those are the highlights that make it into the worship songs, right? There isn't really the depth there. So I think what's important then is to make sure that we just carve out some time and space to really read the story and really try to get into it. And if there's some study tools available, those are super helpful. I mean, this one that we've been using has been phenomenal. Fantastic.
Yeah. I am not the best or fastest reader of books, and I can't say I've read this perfectly every day by any stretch of the imagination. But every time I have, it really draws you in. He's so great at helping you learn something new. So it's been a great journey.
Yep. And just to go back to our question, and this is for everyone who might be listening to this, what is the way that you...
All 5 of you. Thank you.
It might be 6.
It's okay.
The question being, what do you do or what will you do to make this story fresh for you again? How are you going to do it? And your answer is unique to you, obviously. But I encourage you to make that a priority, because Holy Week and Lent is coming to an end. And just like all holidays or special observance days, once they're gone, you just sort of leave them in the dust because life comes at you fast. So make sure you take a moment.
Take some time.
To really let it all in. And
pause
if I can...
and reflect. We used to, on Good Fridays, it was quiet time in our house from, I think, 1 to 3. Does that sound right? Whenever Jesus died, and then... Yeah, there was you couldn't watch TV or play music, or
interesting.
You were supposed to pray, or,
I'm guessing that was a house rule. Mom and Dad were kind of sick of you guys.
No, it was a Good Friday thing.
All right, we're going to start a new tradition. It's called Everybody Shut Up.
No, I clearly remember it only on Good Fridays. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, I'll put in a plug for some of the services we have coming up. Tomorrow we have our Holy Thursday, Maundy Thursday, service, and then there's the Good Friday cantata, and obviously Easter celebration. So you can check one of those out. They're online. You can also register to visit them in person at our church, which is now open and has been for some time.
Yay!
So we hope to see you there, or we hope that you catch us online, or that you find a way to make this story meaningful for you once again.
In these last few days, yeah. Okay, we wish you the best.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the Lent for Everyone podcast. Maybe we'll bring it back next year. We'll see. We've had a lot of fun doing this. And I hope that for anybody that listened, that this was a good part of your Lenten journey. It certainly was for me.
And for me too. It was great.
Yeah. So we won't see you next week, but maybe we'll see you at church, or maybe we'll see you next year.
I hope so. Yeah. Hope to see you soon. We wish you a happy Easter.
And a happy Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, and my birthday's coming up soon.
Your half birthday. I got it in the calendar.
Ooh. I have to send all my friends a letter to let them know. Send presents.
Is that the real end?
I think we're done. I think I got it.
Okay. And
And
cut.